is Jada, and this is our guest, Charlotte Buck, who's a coach at Rockland Rowing and a graduate of Columbia University. So, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well today. How about yourself?
Fine. Where are you from?
I'm from Nyack, New York originally. I grew up here, so I didn't really leave that far for college, and I'm back here in Nyack.
What made you start rowing?
I had a sort of like an interesting route to rowing. A lot of people start in high school on teams like the one I coach, but it's a hard sport that isn't available in a lot of locations. I could have rowed for Rockland when I was a high schooler, but I was not that type of person. I wasn't really an athlete. So when I was going off to college, I knew that I wanted to do something competitive still. I had done debate clubs, different competitions in high school, and I knew I was the right size for rowing. So I thought I'd give it a shot. And Rockland was nice enough to let me row for them with the adult team the summer before I went away to college. And then once I was at Columbia, I walked onto their team and I fell in love. And I haven't stopped rowing since.
What age did you start?
I was 18.
18? That's the only sport you played?
Well, I sort of dabbled in everything when I was younger. So I played tennis, I played basketball, I played soccer, but I wasn't any good at any of them. They were just for fun.
Are there any other schools you were interested in besides Columbia?
Yeah, well, I went to a lot of different colleges and universities. Columbia actually wasn't where I thought I was going to go. Had some food on the bus. If not, ran to the cafeteria, started going to class at 10 a.m., had class till, off and on till, say, around 2 or 3 p.m. I had my second practice from 4 to 6 p.m. And then I was pre-med, so a lot of times I was stuck in lab from 7 to 10 at night afterwards.
Tough day.
It was long, it was a lot.
What was your best moment on the team?
Ooh, there were a lot of good ones. My first coach sort of gave me this challenge that he was like, you're a walk-on, nobody's gonna take you seriously, you're gonna have to prove them wrong. And we're not a very good team. So every time we went up against a better team like Princeton or Michigan, who are like the giants of rowing for women's college rowing, we had to prove them wrong every day. So I liked that as a challenge as sort of my like everyday memory of rowing. But for a particular moment that I loved was Ivy Championships, which is sort of the end of our season every year. My sophomore year, it was my first year in the 1B. So they rank the boats. Now the 1B is the top boat, the 2B, and those are 8s. So you have 8 people in a shell. You have a coxswain, who's the person who steers because it's such a big boat. And then you have 4s and the rest of your boats. And I knew it was gonna be a really, really tough race that day. It was pretty cool. My team's not that good, which is part of why I have all these records. But I have basically the record for every single women's workout at Columbia except for the 6K, but we stopped doing it by the time I was a junior. I think I could have had it, but we stopped doing it.
What was your major?
I was a bio major, so I did all my pre-med classes. Med school is also maybe in my future, but I'm putting that off for now so that I can row.
You enjoyed class?
I did. I loved school. I loved being in my biology classes, and college is a great time to take. For Columbia, they have a core curriculum of all these mandatory sort of literature and history classes, and I love those as well.
What made you decide to become a coach?
Well, it was a really good way for me to balance still being able to train and support that, but also better myself as an athlete and give back to my community. So it's been really great to work with these young athletes and hopefully inspire them to train harder and possibly get scholarships as a way for them to get into college. But it's a good way for me to balance still being able to row attitude. But that's what you're going to get the most out of your sport, but also sort of any activity that you're doing with people. You still want to have a good time even if you're working hard and it hurts. So you have to enjoy it at the same time.
What's your greatest moment as a coach?
I think it was probably, well, there's sort of two. We have this new kid who rowed a little bit at his high school, and watching him some days when it clicks and he actually listens to the coaches and takes our advice, it's amazing to see him pick up speed and then get so excited about that. But I would say probably biggest achievement was 4 of my boys that started this spring who are all 7th, 8th graders. They got bronze at the U15 national championships this year. And that was really great to see because they're really new to it and it just excites them so much to be out there. And it was great for them to physically get something that was a representation of all the hard work that they put in.
How long do you run their practice for?
They have practice for about 2 hours. It's from 3:30 to 5:30 every day.
What is your everyday schedules, coaching, and then practicing for rowing?
Well, the fall schedule is sort of set up that 9 almost on the water. Yeah, 9 on the water. Got off the water, had breakfast, went for my run, came back here, did a few things on my laptop for work, came here. Then I'll have practice I'll probably get there at around 3 to set things up, figure out the votings for the kids today, make sure everything's rigged that we need, and then practice runs till 6 p.m. Basically, that's when I can leave.
So now that you're a coach, like, how is recruiting kids to play for you? How's that aspect of coaching?
It's definitely a challenge. I know that rowing is a hard sell. It's not something like basketball that your friends are gonna come watch and they like know what's going on and it's really engaging. So you can be like, oh, I love LeBron. I'm trying to be like him. There aren't really like famous rowers that people would know. So I think that's a challenge. I think that it's difficult sometimes. Like rowing is really hard. It is incredibly mentally and physically taxing, and convincing a teenager that that's something they should spend a lot of time doing every day is a difficult proposition. But I think going into schools, which is what we've been doing over the past year, has been really helpful to talk to the kids face to face, give them a chance to try out the indoor rowing machine, see if they like it, show some video of what is possible, of either our kids racing or there's even junior national teams for high schoolers, and try to inspire them to do something different.
It must be challenging, huh?
It is. And I understand, like kids have a lot of different things that are attractive to them that they can do. So it's hard to convince them that like this is the thing they should pick. But it's what I love more than anything else. So I have to try to get them to do it.
What are some difficult situations that you've been through as a coach?
I think a lot of the interpersonal aspects are quite hard. Some of the kids don't get along sometimes and they don't want to be on the same boats with each other. They sort of want to have their own plan for practice, and convincing them that they need to sort of work in unison with everyone else can be hard. Besides that, our kids are actually really great. I'm constantly astonished by like how much the middle schoolers get along with seniors in high school and help each other out. And everybody cheers for each other, which is a really important thing in rowing. Like if we're doing land workouts that are really hard, like everyone will be encouraging, and that's really great to see.
And what about as a player, since you were a walk-on?
Like what was hard about it, or?
Yeah, like besides the coach challenging you.
There were a lot of difficult things. My school didn't really have a walk-on culture when I was there. There are a lot of big schools like Wisconsin where they really heavily focus on bringing in 20 new girls who've never rowed. That wasn't what it was like at Columbia. Maybe 1 or 2 people survived the fall season. So people on my own team didn't even tell me their names until the end of the fall, which was a little weird. But I think it was just hard. Columbia is also a place where the athletes weren't really like looked up to you. Like nobody cared who the football players were, which I kind of think is a good thing sometimes. But it made it difficult because nobody cut you any slack that you had to run to your 2 practices every day. So balancing that with work was definitely the hardest. Especially lab work for pre-med, and I did my own like independent research. That was really hard to make time for that, but also do enough to be a successful athlete.
How do you keep yourself motivated every day?
I kind of just think about my big goals. In the gym that I work out in, this is a little sappy, but there's an Olympic flag hanging in it. And I do kind of look at it every day when I'm stretching or warming up or going down. And that's my goal. Even if it kind of feels absolutely insane some days, it's what I want right now.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I would like to help rowing be a more inclusive place. Rockland does a really great job of that. If there are kids that can't afford it but still want to row, we work with them to lower the cost, and we try to get everybody who's interested on the water. I think it's an incredibly special sport from just getting to be in a space that a lot of people don't get to have access to. There's almost no one else out on Rockland Lake ever, and it was sort of the same in college. I would be out on the Harlem River. No one takes a boat out there. That's like not somewhere that like you have your like motorboat and you go out. I got to see the city from a perspective that almost no one gets to see, and it's a really cool experience.
Any events coming up besides your race? And
Well, for the kids, we have racing starting in a month, so that'll be exciting. They have 4 races this fall. My own race is actually the same day as one of their races. It's Head of the Charles. It's the biggest American race, and it might actually be the biggest race in the world in terms of spectators that come and see it. It's really special because there are high schoolers racing, and then there are masters rowers who've been rowing for 40 years or 50 years, and there are Olympians there too. So it's this really big gambit, and everybody comes out in Boston because the course runs through the middle of Boston and Cambridge, and so thousands of people can just wander by and like see people racing down the course, which is really fun.
what's the best advice that you've ever gotten?
A lot of different stuff. Let's see. Well, my best friend, who also walked on with me, she has this quote that she loves, and I think it's good advice for me. It also sort of goes back to your question about motivation. It might be something from a Nike ad, but I really like it. It's, if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, light that bitch up yourself. And it's like, you don't need anybody else. Like, you are going to do it, and you need to put in the work. And I think that's true about anything, not just about sports.
Do you still keep in contact with Columbia and your other coaches that have coached you along the way?
Absolutely. They're actually pretty invaluable in terms of when I was starting coaching last fall, I would text them and be like, I have this girl, and she's really good, and I know she's fit enough to do this stuff. Like, what do you do when somebody can't sort of like push through the pain barrier? And so they gave me some advice about like what to talk to her about. I stay in contact. Yeah, my 3 college coaches are good friends of mine now. They're not that, they're all in their early 30s, so they're pretty young. And I go back and see them occasionally. I went out to a few practices last year, and I'll see them for alumni events. We have a pretty good alumni network. So we've got a row all together in 2 weeks. Should be fun.
Have you ever got the chance to work in Columbia and coach? Would you?
Maybe, if it was the right decision for where my life is going. I think I probably won't coach much after my own rowing dreams work out, because I do still want to go into medicine or public health or something like that afterwards. But maybe. I'm not going to exclude it.
That's pretty much it.